there, I'm Anna with VSAC, and I'm here talking with John Arrison, who's going to tell us a little bit more about his career. So, John, I'll have you start by telling us, what is it that you do for work?
Good morning. Yeah, my name's John Arrison. I'm a master electrician in New Hampshire and Vermont. I also have a fire alarm endorsement. I've been doing electrical work for a very long time. I started when I was in high school as an apprentice, and actually am reaching the twilight of my career in the field. And anyway, I'd like to encourage your kids to think about a field in the trades.
That's great. Thanks. Can you tell us a little bit more about what your job entails?
For the last 35 years, I've been in business for myself, and that doesn't mean I wasn't working in the field, because I have been, but it also involved what the office work, billing, and et cetera, and so forth. But the field work I've always enjoyed. I find every day a challenge. Very seldom I go through a day that I don't learn something. Even at my age, there's always something new coming out, new products, new. Well, one thing that I really enjoy is troubleshooting, and at the end of the project, when you figure out what's wrong and how you fix it, it's a satisfying feeling. My day starts about 6:30 because I'm the boss. Quite often it goes till 5. My employees start at 6:30 and are done at 3:30.
That's great, thanks. And you talked about this a little bit, saying you started out with an apprenticeship, but could you talk a little bit more about your educational background and how you came into this kind of work?
I attended UVM for a little while and didn't do that well, and ended up going to an electronics school in Boston. When I moved back to Vermont, I continued working in the electrical trade, and it's worked out well for me. The students that dovetail best into the trades are people who like to work with their hands. It doesn't necessarily mean that you are concentrating on electrical. I think you just have to enjoy working with your hands. That's not to say that computer skills aren't important, because computers interface with everything nowadays, including electrical trade. How do you become a licensed electrician? And I think that's an important part. During your high school career, if you enroll in the classes at the tech centers, the nearest one to us is Springfield and then Hartford. And if you enroll in those programs, they'll give you at least a brief introduction to all the trades, including electrical. And what I am finding is that all the trades are in great demand, and all the kids coming out of high school have a job, many job offers, and they can go to work as soon as they graduate for pretty good money. How do you get the formal training to become a licensed electrician? To become a licensed electrician, you have to put in 8,000 hours, essentially 4 years. Your employer will sign you up into an apprenticeship course run by the state of Vermont, and that runs for 4 years. And I believe it goes from late September into the spring. I know in the past, the courses have been held in Springfield and White River, and I think a couple other places around the state. But the good part of it is, guess who pays for it? Your employer does. So your only expense is getting yourself to the school and getting good grades.
That's great. Thanks for all that background. That's really helpful. What is your favorite thing about your work?
I think I said earlier that I like finding a problem, finding a solution, and making something work. When you're in the field, you're not in the same place every day. You're not doing the same thing every day. Every day you'll find yourself exposed to new ideas. You'll be constantly accumulating knowledge, which makes you a more valuable employee. And you'll also, at some point in your career, you may decide, hey, I want to try this on my own. and start your own company like I did. And once again, that brings another level of satisfaction, and with it, the frustrations of operating a business.
A good tie into the next question, which is, what are some of the things you find the most challenging about the work?
The line of work that we're in, we deal with engineers quite a bit, and this may be a little bit unfair, and maybe not what you want to hear, but we're finding that some of the quality of the engineering isn't quite as good as it used to be, and I find it rather disappointing when you're handed a set of plans and they don't seem to be as complete as they used to be years ago. From a business owner, I have been pretty successful collecting money, so that part hasn't been an issue. Being in business for yourself, you'll find that your hours, you never work an 8-hour day. If you choose to be an employee, you get good benefits. You can get, and the phone rings constantly. All in all, I don't find it at all frustrating.
That's great. And it sounds like there might not necessarily be a typical day, but could you walk us through kind of what a day might look like for you at work?
I think it'd be easier if I gave it to what an employee might experience.
Great.
Once again, we start fairly early, just so most people want to get done early. And construction in general is not a 9 to 5. It usually is no later than 7 o'clock. So basically, you'd show up at the shop, talk over the day's work, put together your material that you need for the day. And it's really important as an employee to be thinking about, what am I going to be doing all day long, and making sure that you're not thinking about what you did the day before, or, that your mind needs to be in your work, and be thinking about what can I do to make sure that the day runs as smoothly as possible. And I think that's really important. And if a good employee, if nothing's going on, they pick up a broom. Nothing is more frustrating from an employer standpoint than seeing people standing around, even though there's things to do. Okay, in my company, the vehicles are provided. You may go to work for some company that requires you to be on site in your own vehicle. So anyway, travel time. We have, over the years, have tried to stay fairly local to our location, which is near Exit 8 on 91. And so you travel to the job site, once again, thinking about, what am I going to be doing for the day? Get out your material, get out your tools, and then towards, obviously, lunch break, coffee break, et cetera, and so forth, that comes with any job. And then towards the end of the day, as an apprentice, you're going to be expected to do a lot of the cleanup. So your mentor on the job, when you're an apprentice, shouldn't have to tell you to start the cleanup like a half an hour, 20 minutes. So if you're thinking ahead about, while these tools we're done with them for the day and you're putting them away, your mentor and employer will really appreciate it, and you'll make you a better employee.
That's great. Thanks. You talked about this a little bit already too, with kind of some of the qualities that make someone a good fit for the job, but is there anything else you would want to add to that?
No, I really emphasize, when I've hired green help, one of my last employees actually came out of the tech center in New Hampshire. He went to Laconia and got a lot of the schooling out of the way, and it was all credited towards his Vermont license and the Hampshire license. But I look for people that, you like to work on your cars. What do you like to do? If you like to play computer games, you may not be a good fit in construction, if that's your main focus in life. I look for people that are reasonably fit. Other than that, work with your hands. That's absolutely critical.
That's great. And that's a good lead into the next one too. You've already talked and given some great advice about the classes they could take in high school and looking at the local tech centers and the pathway to apprenticeships. But Are there other things that even like particularly like a younger student in 7th or 8th grade could start doing now to set themselves up for this kind of work, like volunteer projects or just tinkering at home or anything like that you'd want to add?
Well, there's no class in high school that's not important. You may emphasize, you think, well, why have I got to take English? Well, because you need to be able to talk intelligently. You need to be able to write intelligently. You need to be able to put your grammar needs to be reasonable, and your mathematics skills need to be at least a competent level, probably Algebra 1 at the very least, maybe even higher, if possible. Any knowledge that you can put in your quiver when you're in high school is an asset to you later in your life.
That's great, thanks. And anything else you would want to add about education or training down the road that they should be thinking about for success in this kind of work?
When you get into the trade, there's always additional educational opportunities depending on what field you go into. And I'd like to add that just when we use the word electrical, it could mean fire alarm, it could mean burglar alarm, it could mean security access. There's a multitude, datacom. There's many different branches in the electrical field that are opportunities, and some of them are more technical than others. If you stick to strictly doing house wiring, even today, the high-end houses are all smart, have got smart technology. So anything that you can do along those lines will be an asset later. And then your employer any employer, a good employer, will offer training, additional training as different opportunities come along. To maintain your license, you have to do 16 hours of update it's only every 4 years, so it's not that big a burden. But you need to stay current. There's several trade magazines that come out, and if you subscribe to those, it keeps you current with the products that are out, and you can kind of see what other people are doing.
That's great, thanks. Any other advice or thoughts you would want to share with students?
Well, all the trades are getting older, and the opportunities in the trades are compounding. I had a conversation with a plumber just this morning, and he said, I can't expand my business because there's no help. We're in a very peculiar situation right now with help in all fields, whether it be a waitress, waiter, or trades. It doesn't matter. For some reason, there is a chronic shortage of workers. But in the trades, that's existed for a number of years, and several of the trade magazines have picked up on the fact that a lot of people are aging out, and people aren't coming in to the trades. Either it doesn't interest them, or they want to sit on a keyboard all day long. You may not die a millionaire, but you can make a darn good living in the trades. And I think the opportunities for making even more money are coming very quickly.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.